grew up right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I went to the University of Southern Mississippi and I majored in speech communication. Now today, that makes a little sense. In 1977, my parents thought I was a little nuts. And I remember my father kept saying every time I came home for Christmas or summer break, "What are you going to be? What are you going to be? What is this thing called speech?" So I went to the head of my department at the University of Southern Mississippi and I said, "I have to tell my dad something." And he went through a litany of jobs. And I could be in public relations, or I could be a newscaster, or I could do this or that. And then he said, "Or you could work in a hotel and plan meetings for people." And I thought, well, that's what I want to do. So I came back to the Gulf Coast full of enthusiasm with nothing in my pocket but a degree. And I interviewed at every hotel in Gulfport and Biloxi, and no one would hire me. And then 6 weeks later, I needed a job. I didn't care what they called it or what I did. I just needed a job. So I ended up with an interview at a bank. The bank's not even here anymore, with a man named Wayne Grant. Wayne was a stern, serious, scary guy. He had retired from the Pentagon, and he was now the vice president of Gulf Coast Savings and Loan. And he was looking for a student loan coordinator and a secretary. I had no clue what either one of those were. But I interviewed with Wayne. And he asked me a question. He said, "What's your WPM?" Does anybody know what that is? Words per minute. Okay, well, you need to know I had never taken typing. I just kind of thought I would have people or something. But I knew in that moment I needed that job. And so I made a life decision and I said, 90. I didn't know if 90 was good or bad. It just seemed like a round number. And you know, my life goal is to under-promise and over-deliver. I sort of realized I had shot my wad on this one because Wayne got kind of excited. And so he hired me. I won't go through the grisly, horrible details, but 3 weeks later, he called me into his office. And he said, "This is not working." And I said, "I know. I'm so sorry." And I waited for the words that I knew were coming. What? "You're fired." And that's not what he did. He said, "I found a class. I'm going to pay $90 if you will get your butt to that class every Tuesday night from 6 to 9. I want all of us to be Wayne Grant to somebody, because he gave me a skill that I would need for the rest of my life, and he should have fired me, and he didn't. I went to class every Tuesday night, and he saw something in this kid that had not a lot going for her except a little bit of personality and some spunk. And you know, what I take from that story is what a positive influence he was to me. Now, what you can take from that story about me is that I'm either a liar or a risk taker. What are y'all thinking? Risk taker, me too. So a year later, I interviewed in Natchez, Mississippi at the Eola Hotel to be the sales manager. And when the director of sales said, "Can you type?" I said, "I swear to God, I brought my certificate and everything." So it will not surprise you, 3 years ago, I was asked by the Louisiana Travel Association if I had a speech on leadership. And I said, "Sure." Do you think I had one? I didn't. But I'd been a leader. I had managed people. How hard could it be to figure out what smart people think about leadership and then put a speech together? And so I did what good speakers do. I went to Amazon. I ordered 8 books. I got some note cards and some index cards, and I came down to Ocean Springs, Mississippi, which is my happy place, and I locked the door and I read all those books. And I made a lot of notes, and then I started to cry. Because who was I to stand up in front of you who are leaders in your towns and communities all across this state and think that I had anything to say? And all I was going to do was regurgitate what a whole lot of smart people had said, and I didn't want to do that. And then I got really quiet, and I said, what do I believe to be true about leadership? What is it? Because it's kind of fuzzy, you know? Good leaders don't look the same. They don't all have the same types of personality. And so it was hard for me to come up with what I really believe to be true. And what I remembered is when I was in my early 40s, I managed 100 people. I was probably the worst leader ever because I was so scared that all those people were going to figure out that I had no clue what I was doing, that I wasn't available to them. I acted like a leader. I had meetings and I had vision things and strategic plans, and I included people in the process, and we had workshops, but I really wasn't available to be there for them. And so about 4 years ago, I hired a professional coach to work with me. I don't even know why. I thought it would just be kind of cool to have somebody talk to me every couple of weeks and focus on me. It's usually about me, if you knew me better. And what came out of that is some deep stuff, because that coach asked me a whole lot of questions that I had never asked myself. She said, what's your vision for your life? What are you good at? What lights you up? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to live with? My husband, who's here, is glad that the answer was him. But she asked me some tough questions, and so for a couple of years, I did some really hard work on me. And then I turned around, and now I'm only managing 10 people, and what I realized is I was a much better leader than I had been before because I had focus and clarity and truth about who I was. And that's what I think leadership is. So what I'm going to share with you are my 7 strategies that I've come up with. But first, I want to tell you what a leader is not. A leader is not about the person that's worked there the longest. A leader is not the person with the title. And the leader is not the person with the biggest personality or the person that's the quietest or whatever. None of that is it. I have to tell you, one of the most important lessons I ever learned was in 2001 or 2. I was named the tourism director of Mississippi in 2000 for Governor Ronnie Musgrove. I managed 100 people, and I had a budget of about $6 or $7 million. It was the biggest job that I could ever imagine having in my life. And I was 40 years old. I was the youngest tourism director ever in the state. And my ego entered a room before I did. People are really nice to the tourism director. Y'all may not know that. But we had a big budget, and we gave money to people, so people were really nice to me. And it was easy to think that that was about me, that I was special, that I was doing something that was really special. And I remember I came down to Bay St. Louis, and I invited my father, Dennis Oliver, who's one of the smartest people I know, and my stepmother to dinner. And we went to a restaurant, and the restaurant owner came over and said, "Oh, Darienne, we're so excited you're here." And he sent over a bottle of wine and an appetizer, and I'm thinking, my dad is so proud. He is freaking out that his daughter, who was a, silly girl, is somebody. That's not what he was thinking. He watched all of that. He sat back, and then he said, "Darienne, all of this stuff is about what's behind your name. It has nothing to do with you. And when this title goes away, all this stuff goes with it." And he said, all you will have left are the relationships you have made and the people you have touched. And he was so right. And I allowed myself to take that in, and a little pin went in that ego bubble. And I was able to relax into that job and remember every day, it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. I was simply given this job. And so I give that to you for whatever that's worth. It has been an important lesson to me. So I did go to the experts and say, what does leadership mean? So here are some quick definitions. Peter Drucker says the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Warren Bennis, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Bill Gates, As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. And then John Maxwell, who's a leadership guru, said leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I liked all of those, but then I found another one that I really liked a little bit better. Leadership is a process of social influence. And that means that the person that's the leader may be the secretary. It may be the administrative person. It's the person that everybody follows, that everybody listens to. And it maximizes the efforts of others, meaning that you as the leader see the gifts that your team has and you're letting them use those what they're best at towards the achievement of a goal. You know, there's a story about a bank president in the Delta, and he went to his very first board meeting. He had been hired and had met a few of the board members, but not all of them. And as he walked into that room, he thought, I got to figure out who's in charge here. And the chairman of the board and some of the board members were there, and they were all in suits. They were the community executives. And then walked in a farmer and sat in the back of the room and didn't say a lot. But within about an hour of that meeting, he realized that when the farmer spoke, he was quiet and thoughtful and reserved, but he made sense. And that was who the leader of the room was, because they voted the way the farmer said. So the 7 strategies. You know, my intention today, first of all, my number one intention is to finish on time because you got lunch next. So to be a good speaker, I got to get you out of here when I'm supposed to. Second, though, is I don't expect anybody in this room to go home and try all 7 of these things that I've tried, because that you'll forget them and you won't do them. What I hope is that one of these resonates and you say, oh yeah, I remember I used to do that. I could do that better. So that's what I hope you get from these. The first strategy is to be intentional. I heard a speaker once say, we all have a default future or a desired future. Default means it's going to happen, whether we plan it or not. So we major in something because our mother said we're good at that. And then we go to that school because it's this far away from our home and we feel good about that. We graduate and somebody offers us a job. We meet a girl and we date her for a while and offer to marry her. And then we get another job because somebody says you would be really good at this. So your future just kind of happens. And then there are people that have a desired future where they have a vision for what they want their life to be and they sort of head in that direction. I wasn't that girl. I was default. In college, my whole goal was just to graduate. And when I got a job, my goal was to not be fired. I've never really had anything past that. But what I know is we have no control over what happens to us, but we have control in how we show up. So I believe that an intention is on your way to work, how do I want to show up today? What do I want to be? Do I want to feel happy or balanced or accomplished? Do I want to show up with kindness and compassion for the people that I work with? What is it that I want to be? My intention has been the same for several years. I say this every day, every morning. I want to show up, speak up, and be present. And all of those are hard for me. I've been showing up for work for 35 years. I show up and do what I am asked to do. But I don't always show up for my friend who's going through a divorce or who just lost her parent or lost her job because I don't know what to say. But I want to be that person that shows up anyway. I don't speak up because I don't like conflict. So I don't want to raise my hand in a meeting and say, am I the only one that doesn't know what we're talking about? Or I don't really like this idea. Or I need to have a difficult conversation. And I'm uncomfortable doing that, but can we talk? So I want to be somebody that speaks up. And last is I want to be present. The greatest gift we give another person is to be present for them. And that means that when you're in my presence, I don't want to be thinking about the email that I need to write or the meeting that I'm headed to or the conversation that I had with my husband an hour ago. I want to be able to focus on you and listen to you, and we know when someone is present for us. You know, I do a lot of corporate training and I do a lot of work with executives. And one of the most important things we can all learn as executives is to say, not now. I can't be interrupted right now. Can I come find you in 30 minutes? The interruptions in our day are what kill productivity. And because we are trained to say, when somebody says, can I have a moment of your time? We say, sure. First of all, your attention is not there, so it's difficult to be present. And second, it takes you 15 minutes to get back to what you were doing before that interruption. So learning to say, you know what, I've really got to finish this. Can I come find you in a little while is extremely valuable. So when I go into a meeting or a cocktail party, my intention is always the same: to be interested and not interesting. I spent a lot of years trying to be interesting enough that you would like me. And what I learned is that when I started being interested in you and shutting up and asking questions, you liked me a lot more. So I want to be interested and not interesting. My next strategy is that to be quiet. We all need, all right, am I on quiet? I need to move over one, don't I? Okay. Everybody needs a morning routine. Everybody needs quiet in their morning somewhere. I don't know what that looks like for you, and you may already have that. I've done some research on top executives in the country, and they have some type of moment where they close their eyes, get quiet, listen to music, read something inspirational, go sit in the backyard and look at the birds, write in a journal. I don't know what that is, but what I know is that the people that do it well, you're different. When I do my morning routine, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, I am centered. And I have clarity and focus, and I know what my most important thing is. And when somebody says, the president called, he sounded really mad, and he said, call him right back. So Sherry, has that ever happened to you? So that's an anxiety moment. But when I've had that morning routine, it doesn't hit me the same way, and I say, okay, I'll go call the president and see what's going on. So my routine has been the same, so I can only share what works for me. I meditate, and I pray, and I'm grateful. Now, I don't sit on the floor and hum, just to give you an idea, because that's not me. But I sit in a chair, and I close my eyes, and I get quiet. I turn off the Today Show, and I get quiet. And I have that second cup of coffee, and I am alone. And then I pray, and then I remind myself about all the things that are really good in my life. And when I do that, it changes who I am and how I walk into my day. My next strategy is to be curious. We make judgments all day long without information. So somebody cuts in front of you in traffic, what do you think? Well, she's a real, yeah. If somebody's late 3 days in a row, somebody comes down the hall and says, well, she doesn't care about her job. Can you believe she's been late all this time? You know, I had a business partner for years named Jill. And if Jill walked into the office and she went in her office and closed her door, what do you think I thought? She's mad at me. I did something. I don't know what, but she's mad at me because it's always about me. So I must have done something. And so I whirly-derb about what I might have done that hurt her feelings. And the opposite of judgment is curiosity. It is going down the hall to the little girl that's late 3 days and say, I noticed you've been late. What's going on with you? Curiosity. It's opening Jill's door and saying, are you okay? You seem a little stressed. Can I do anything for you? Because 99.9% of the time it wasn't about me. It was about something she had on her mind or something she needed to get done in a hurry. But we all take in the information we're given and we make judgments. So I really believe in being curious. I think I skipped one. There's a great book that I read many years ago called The Four Agreements. And y'all, it's about this thick and this big, and it has some really powerful messages in it. But one of the most important to me was to be impeccable with my word. And another word for that for me is integrity. And that means doing what I say I'm going to do every time. If I say I'm going to call you back, I'm going to call you back. If I say I'm going to meet you to walk at 6 in the morning, then I need to show up and walk with you. If I say I'm going to check on that and I will get back with you, I need to get back with you. We have to keep promises to ourselves and others. And do you know the hardest person it is to keep promises to? Not others. It's ourselves. And what falls off our list are what I call our big rocks. So I do a yoga class on Monday morning. It's kind of a gift that I give myself. I enjoy that time and I enjoy the exercise. But yet, if a client calls and says, can you meet Monday morning at 9 o'clock, what do you think I say? Sure. And I mark my yoga class off. So I'm not good at always keeping promises to myself. But that's what a person with integrity does, and that's what a leader does. I also am very aware of the words we use. When we say, I have to go to church, I have to exercise tomorrow, I have to call my sister, then I am saying that I'm a victim and I have no choice. And when I say, I want to call my sister because I haven't talked to her in 2 or 3 weeks, I want to go to church because I feel filled up, I love to go to yoga, it lands differently in your body. So when we say, I should, I have to, I can't do that, we're taking our choice out of the equation. I say, be careful of the words that you choose. Values. I don't think I even knew what my values were. I knew that my stomach hurt when I told a lie. And I knew that when I was asked to do something unethical, I know how that felt in my body. But I couldn't have articulated to you what my values were. And when we are out of alignment with our values, what's really, really important to us, and it's different for every person in this room, when we are out of alignment, we are in disease. That means when you feel funny, something's off. So if one of your top values is family, and you've been working 16 hours a day and you haven't made time for them, you start to feel a little off. I love Brene Brown, who is an author that I read a lot. And she said that authenticity is a collection of choices that we make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to, I can't read that. I know I forgot my glasses. What was I thinking? I do a values assessment with my clients, and I want to offer that to anybody in the audience. At the end of this, you'll have my email address. If you email me, I will send you my values assessment and let you see what your values are. Because I keep my core values in my office on a little sticky note so that I remember what are those things that really matter. And you know, it's interesting because in my 30s, achievement, accomplishment, recognition, those were my values. And that isn't bad, but they've changed. Today, my core values are these: authenticity, family and friends, faith, integrity, humor, being present, connection. That's what's important to me today. And I need to make sure that I'm doing and living in alignment with those values. And I am the best leader. You know, you can't give from an empty cup. I am the best leader when I have taken care of myself and I'm in alignment with the things that are important to me. I hope that makes some sense to y'all. Be vulnerable. The willingness to show up and be seen with no guarantee of the outcome. Harvard did a study that called vulnerability the snowball effect. Vulnerability does not mean going down the hall and telling some intern that your mother didn't love you. You can do that, but it's probably a little inappropriate. Vulnerability is pulling the veil back and asking for help. It's showing weakness. It's saying, I'm scared. I don't know if this thing's going to work. It's saying that when I walk in a board meeting, I always have a little bit of a stomach ache because I don't know what's about to happen. Because if I don't ask for help, my staff can't ask for help. If I work every single day and nights and weekends, they have to too. If I don't let them know that I'm scared and anxious and a little uncomfortable at times, then they can't let me know how they're feeling. So it's called the snowball effect. All right, I saved the best one for last, and what I believe to be most important, and that is living out loud. Living out loud to me is doing things that scare you. And I don't think as an individual or an organization, if our stomach doesn't hurt sometimes, I don't think we're living our best life or doing the best for our organizations that we represent. You have to do things that scare you. You know, I don't regret the things that I tried and I wasn't good at. I regret the things that I never tried because I was too scared I would not be good at them. I am shy by nature. I am also insecure. I have a little voice in me that says I'm not quite good enough. Now, in my 20s, that voice screamed at me. In my 50s, it's a little bit of a whisper. But I have a voice that says, who do you think you are to be in front of all these really amazing people? So I didn't live out loud a lot, but I lived out loud in moments. And those moments changed my life. So when I was 17, I went to my mother and I told her I had decided I wanted to be in the Junior Miss pageant. And I had all these forms together. Now, you need to know that I had never been in a beauty pageant. No one had ever suggested that I should. You can laugh. No one had ever suggested that was a good idea. So my mother's reading through these papers and trying to figure out how to ask me a question. And she says, don't those girls have talent? And I said, yeah. So she got quiet some more, and she's reading the papers, and she looks up and says, what is yours? I mean, I didn't play the piano, and I didn't sing, and so I can imagine that was a little out there. So I told her that I was going to do a comedy routine. I don't think she felt better. But she let me be in the Junior Miss pageant. My parents wore sunglasses and sat on the back row. Now, the best part of this story would be if I told you that I won Junior Miss, right? I didn't win. I was Miss Congeniality, but I didn't win. But it wasn't about winning. It was about showing up and doing something that scared me. So another moment for me was in 2000. I was running an association management company and very happy in my little world. And a friend of mine, another smart person, Webster Franklin from Tunica, Mississippi, called me and he said, close your door. We need to talk. And he said, we have a new governor and he's going to pick the tourism director. And we as an industry just sit back and wait for him to decide who he wants. We need to be proactive and get behind somebody. We need to tell the governor who we want. And I said, well, damn, Webster, that's really smart. And I said, who are we going to get behind? And he said, you. And so I started rambling about all the reasons that I wasn't qualified to have that job. I said, I've never managed that many people. I've never managed a budget like that. I mean, I don't think I'm qualified. I'm too young. I don't think I could do the job. And I said, a lot of people don't like the tourism director. I mean, if they promote the coast and they're not promoting Tupelo or they don't say Hattiesburg's name enough, people get mad. And Webster said, what rock do you live under? People don't like you now. And when I've told the story, I have given Webster Franklin credit for getting me that job. He didn't get me the job. He opened my mind up that it was a place that I could go. I have about 5 minutes. He said he made me think it was possible. I made an appointment with Jay Moon, who was then deputy director of MDA. And I went in to see Jay Moon and I said, Jay, I have somebody in mind to be your tourism director. And he said, great, Darienne, we always like suggestions and, that would be wonderful. Who is it? And I said, me, pick me. I didn't have a second line, y'all. There was silence. Jay looked at me, I looked at him, I had a resume, and I told him some reasons that I thought I would be good, and I ran out of the room. I called Webster, and I said, I blew it. I blew it. That was horrible. And 3 weeks later, I had a call from the governor's office and the head of MDA that said that they wanted to meet me personally, and I was given that job. That living out loud moment changed the trajectory of my career dramatically. And it's all because I had the guts to make an appointment with somebody that scared me and say, pick me. So my 7 strategies are to be intentional, to be quiet, to be curious, be impeccable with your word, authentic, vulnerable, and to live out loud. I always believed when I was younger that there was this ladder of success, and when we climbed it and we got to the top, we would have landed at the success party. And you and I would all be there, and there would be great red wine, a band playing, and we all would be very thin and pretty. What I have learned is there is no moment when we are successful. We're all going up and down that ladder all the time. And it's our responsibility as leaders to help people who are coming up the ladder and to help people that might be coming down a rung or two, because it will be us one day that need to make a phone call and say, hey, can you help me? Do you know anything? I hope these 7 strategies resonated with you. I hope one of them might help you be a better leader. What I know for sure is that when I am better as a person, I am better for the people that I manage. I want to thank you for your time. I want to show you that's my email address, dmobley@darienneinc.com. I'm also giving away 10 free coaching sessions to anybody that has any interest in learning more about what that is. If you email me, say you're interested in coaching or in the values assessment, I'm happy to provide those back. It has been an honor to be your keynote speaker today. Thank you.